So let me just ask you guys, how do you define workflow? Or why do you think it's important?
Make you organize, efficiency,
So efficiency,
Structure, efficiency.
structure, efficiency.
Helps you get it done. Otherwise, you might just keep chasing your tail around in circles all day.
and it's like you put it in library and other
Yeah, so the importance of library, categories, organization. What else? Organization.
time.
Yeah, time. Okay. So everything you said is 100% correct. Now I'm just going to use different analogies because I think this is useful too. So where does the word flow come from? Liquid, water, right? And maybe this is the Asian in me, but I'm really into like chi, water, flow. Like I'm really into water. I'm actually an Aquarius. I think I'm an Aquarius, but
You're an egg guy.
I'm an egg guy, okay? So I'm an executor, okay? So to me, water is the ultimate force. So actually so I also study a lot of philosophy, and one of them I really like is Taoism. So do you know Taoism? So the idea, there's one concept, it's called Wu Wei. You guys can write this down. W-U-Wei, W-E-I. Wu Wei means action without action. Wu Wei. Do you know what this? How do you say it in Chinese? Wu Wei. Okay. So what is Wu Wei?
Always means you think you kind of do nothing, but actually you done something.
Yeah, exactly. So I still think there's this contrast between the American style and the Asian style. I think the Asian style is actually superior than the American style because the Asian style has been around longer and it's worked for thousands of years. Modern American efficiency has only been around for like, I don't know, like less than 100 years, right? So in America, it's like you always try to be efficient and productive and like, you gotta be focused, can't get distracted and just work on it, right? And then like, we time ourselves and everything's based on measurement, right? So the reason why American society is built on measurement is it's called Taylorism. There was this one British guy named something Taylor, and he went to a factory. He's like, okay, how do we make the factory more efficient? How do we produce more nails in a minute? So he'd go there, he'd say, hey, okay, make as many nails as you can. I'm gonna time you. So he times the people, and they're like, oh shit, how many times? The problem with that is that what they discovered is the only reason they were more efficient was someone was watching them, so they're so scared, so they would just produce more nails. So actually for me, true productivity, essentially it's Wu Wei, it's the Asian way, it's where you're actually not forcing yourself to be productive. So like for example, I do like 3 or 4 blog posts a day, right? In the past I'd be like, okay, I need to set a goal, right? This is all about Americans, like goal setting. It's like, I need to do 1 blog post a day, and then I'll be more successful in my whatever. And I would always be so stressed out. Oh, should I have any more of my blog post today? And I'd get very like anxious. And the days I couldn't do a blog post, I couldn't sleep at night, and I feel bad about myself. And I was just thinking. And then I started studying philosophy. Like one day, I'm like, what if I just stopped caring so much? What if I didn't set goals for myself? So I'm like, all right, fuck it, no more goals. I'm only gonna blog when I feel like it. And you know what happened? I blogged more and better. I blogged more and better, and then I started doing like some days I did like 5 or 6 blog posts a day. Because I didn't force myself, and I only did it when I felt like it. Because sometimes the day you feel more productive, and some days you're tired. So like if I was tired, I would take a nap. I'd wake up, I feel better, I have a cup of coffee, and I do a lot of work. So I also feel like photography, workflow is the same thing. Is that like the less you try to force yourself to be productive in photography, the happier you'll be, and actually the more productive you'll be. And this is my theory. If you want to be more creatively productive, just focus on being less stressed and more happy. It's very simple. So like in the past with street photography, you'd be like, okay, you know, I need to make really good photos because I need to upload a photo to Facebook today, for example. So then I'd go to like drive to downtown, have my camera, and I'd be like, okay, I need to make a really, really good photo. But it's kind of like sex, right? When you try too hard, you're not going to perform. If you just kind of let it go, it flows better. So now I'm just like, okay, what do I like to do? I like to go to coffee shops. I like to walk at the mall. I like to go to the lake. I like to walk around the block when I'm stressed. What I'll do instead is, rather than making photography the focus of my life, I'm just going to focus on living my life however I enjoy it. And then I'm just going to put the camera in my pocket. And then whenever I see something I want to photograph, I'll photograph it. So as a consequence, I'm so much more effective. So like you, let's say I'm in Berkeley. I'm like, oh, I want to go to Berkeley Bowl to pick up some almond butter or something like that, right? And I'll just go and I'll just like make sure the camera is like my companion. It's like I'm Batman in the car. On the side you got Robin. So that's what my camera is. Rather than making the camera the driver of the car, I'm the driver of my life, and the camera is just my companion. And so as a consequence, I think your photos actually end up being more unique and interesting. So like certain things, like for example, I like fashion, right? So I'd go to like the Louis V store, and I see all these like crazy rich Asians or things, and I would shoot street photography in the Louis Vuitton store. And it's a concept that a lot of people never even thought about, because they always say, oh, street photography has to be on the streets, right? So I'm like, what if I can even shoot street photography indoors? So like, there's so many different ways to innovate. And there's different ways, and there's different modes of photography workflow. Because that's one thing that people say is that like, well, I'm gonna go shoot photos or photography. There's so many different elements, okay? So let me ask you guys, what are the different elements of the photographic process? So first of all, there's like, you shoot the photos, right?
Sorry, everybody.
Oh, it's okay. Take a seat and scoot up. You can once you scooch up. You can scooch up closer, right? I mean, we're just talking about photo workflow, okay? So there's different parts of the photographic experience. You can just scooch up the chair. So there's the shooting aspect, okay? So let's say you go out and you shoot a bunch of pictures. What do you do afterwards with the photos? You download them to your computer? What else? Edit your photos? When you say edit, what do you mean? Minor tweaks? No. And also, before you tweak your photos, you need to select the photos you're gonna tweak, right? So I would actually say, with photo workflow, so much of it, the really thing that's very, very important we forget, is the art of image selection. And this is tricky too, because when we say editing, nowadays we mean to say photo tweaking, like add contrast, blah, 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 blah. But what is really editing? So if you're a book editor, what do you do? What does a book editor do? Oh, sorry, it's okay. So if I'm a writer, and you're my editor, what does an editor do?
First of all, the selection, which is the shooter's work of all.
Usually a good editor is somebody who helps you select. So if you're a photo editor, are you in front of Photoshop all day tweaking people's images?
No.
What do you do? You're picking the images to tweak. So I think nowadays there's so much emphasis like, oh, I want to make this black and white or color and make it perfect. But more important than that is deciding which to select the best photos to kind of tweak or edit, right? So like even Nadia, when you're working on your book project, which I want you guys to talk about the rest of the trip later, how did you choose which images to tweak?
Well, I start with the story, first of all.
Start with the story.
If it's a book, it has to tell a story. Otherwise, it's just a book of the image. So that's the selection I have to make. And I have to be kind of removed from the one I really like and choose the one that fit in the story.
So first starting with the story.
Yeah, I start with the story of what I want to say. Let's say that usually when I look at a set of pictures, the pictures also tell me the story, and then from there I put it together. So it's selection, according to the story and also how the picture speaks to you and what it tells you. And the difficult part is being emotionally detached,
Emotionally detached.
because most of the time you really like that picture,
Yeah.
but somehow it doesn't fit. You try to make it fit, you spend lots of time, and then at the end you say, okay, that's my baby, but that's out.
Yeah.
And that's
So you
what
gotta
I
kill the
found.
babies.
Yeah, so
'Cause-
that's the
yeah.
difficult part.
You know, because have you ever taken a photo that, like, you know, you had a nice conversation with an old man who's like 102 years old, you took a bunch of pictures, and then the memory is so deep, but the photo isn't that great? You know it's not that great, but the story associated with the picture is so strong that, like, you choose it, but it's not that strong, right? So I think actually it takes more courage to kill your babies than to keep them. And we also, we all know, right? Do you ever have any friends who upload photos of their kids or babies to Instagram or Facebook?
I don't.
That's good. All right. Does not parent question? Does any parent think that their children is ugly? Of course not, right?
Not all parents.
Like, have you ever had a parent be like, "Oh, my kid's so cute," right? And then you're like, "It looks half baked. Put it back in the oven," right? So.
So I have a friend, like that, really smart. But he puts pictures of his dogs on Facebook, and then he writes little conversations like one dog's talking to the next dog. It drives me fucking crazy.
That's
I want to
crazy.
scream. It's like,
That's hilarious.
take that shit off of Facebook.
That's hilarious. So, Doc, I have a question. So, you know, you shoot pictures for all day, right? How do you know which pictures to choose?
I think it's hard to define what's good photo, right? Depends. But for me, I always follow my instinct.
Follow your instincts. Yeah, that's good. Follow your instincts.
First of all, I like to let them sit for a while.
Understood, yeah.
And then, if I'm looking at an image, I go through really fast. And I don't pick something unless it grabs me and tells some kind of there's a message in there, or there's some tension in there, or there's something that makes you want to look at that a little longer than something else, or come back to it.
Yeah.
That's how
I think that's really good. So I think this is also an important thing is that I think if you want to know more objectively if your photo is good or not, the best part is to sit and let it wait. So for example, it's like fermenting kimchi. Generally, the longer you let it ferment, the better it tastes. Or like beer or wine or whiskey or children, right? So I'll let you know what my photo workflow is. So just to give you a sense of what I'm doing right now, and I'll give you guys a live demo. Yeah.
Before contact sheet, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people shoot one image for 10 of them. Do you still do that?
Doing the contact sheets. Well, this is okay. So contact sheets, like when there's a film, you would choose the film. So actually, the best. So this is interesting. I'll talk about two things. Okay. So any of you guys own an iPad? We all have an iPad. We look at it when we take a shit, right? Okay. So now I actually sometimes I use my laptop to choose my pictures, and sometimes I use the iPad to choose the pictures. I think both are good. And sometimes what I actually like to do is I like to switch between them because it actually helps me be more creatively productive. Because there are certain things I love about the laptop, I hate about it. There's certain things I love about the iPad, I hate about it. One of the benefits of using an iPad to import your photos is, so this is what I usually do, okay? So, have you ever seen one of these? So this is the Apple Lightning connector that connects to the bottom of your iPad. this, and you could just stick your SD card in here and then import your photos into Apple Photos. And actually, one of the biggest benefits of Apple Photos is this. So when I'm using my iPad for workflow, in some ways it's actually faster because what I do is I take the SD card from my Ricoh, I plug it in here, right? And you don't even need the newest iPad or whatever. Even the $300, $400 iPad is fine. So when you go into this import module, so you plug it in, and a lot of people use the Wi-Fi to transfer photos. I personally hate Wi-Fi because it's actually more complicated, complex, it's slower. I think this is actually simpler and faster, and I think it's actually better. So one of the big benefits of using an iPad for workflows is that you actually have a contact sheet, and instead of importing all your photos, I only select the pictures that work as small thumbnails well, and then I'll choose to import that. Because the problem is when we see photos at full resolution, we think that it's really good, but actually this is my biggest tip. It's called the small thumbnail test. If your photo looks nice as a small thumbnail, it's probably a good photo. Because you have some photos where it's like, you see a full screen, it's like, this photo is so good because in the very, very background you have a dog doing a backflip. That's so great, but most people are just going to be seeing your photos on your phone. So I think nowadays, a photo must work well as a small thumbnail, or else it's not going to work well as a big. So it's better to have a photo that works well as a small thumbnail, and then you blow it up, instead of a photo that works only works well as a big image, and then you make it a small thumbnail. So the nice thing about looking at photos as small thumbnails is that you could quickly scan through your images, and you could easily tell what's an interesting image or not. So all these photos of building is too distracting and messy, it's not even that interesting, right? And often when you choose the photos, the best photos are the simple compositions, right? So you remember we're in the bathroom of the Molino Peugeot, the corn tortilla place? You remember that hipster light bulb up there? I just took photos of the light bulb, and you can see as small images of the light bulb. It's like, looks nice. Or even portraits I shot of Cindy, I can see, it's like, this image, you can see a little of her lips. So rather than looking at each of these full resolution, as a small thumbnail, I could just choose one. So, do you remember our fucking massive guacamole, right? So I was like, that's good. And I could quickly scan through all images, and I only choose a few photos that I want to import. So the big benefit of this is that it's actually sped up my photography workflow by a lot. So I'm just looking through the pictures really quickly. And you could quickly tell what images are good, what aren't that good. And this is the nice thing. You just choose a few photos that you like, and the other photos is okay. And sometimes the fear we get is what if there was a great shot that I might have missed? I think it's okay.
Life.
That's life. That's life. And to be honest, a really good photo should be a small thumbnail. It punches you in the face or kicks you in the face. Otherwise, it's usually not that good. And in life, the ultimate resource we have is time. Right? So to me, anything that can help you save time is the most important thing, right? And that's what really efficiency and effectiveness is, right? So let's say I chose a bunch of images, this is good. Even a tip too, remember when we're photographing against the blue and green blue wall? You can see the guy here and the little bit of the red. So if you could see a little bit of the red against the blue wall, it means it's a good photo. So I just looked through these in the top right corner, click import, select it. And I found that on a laptop, I generally don't do this. I just import all, and then I look through them all as full resolution.
It's easier to do this than kill them after they're in.
Yeah, exactly. So, so that's the thing that one of the benefits of using an iPad is during this import selection phase, it's just a lot faster, right? And so now you can see when I just go to my album, now I only have a few photos that I need to look through as full resolution, and then I just look through them. And usually what I'll do afterwards too is if I like the photo. So let's say I like this photo, and then I'll just use the heart. So I go through it. Ooh, sponsor, right? So let's say I like these are the photos I like. I'll just press heart. And then in photos you got the favorites, right? So actually, I think using photos on your phone, your iPad, your laptop, it's actually really good. Because it's very simple, it's fast, it works well, it syncs whatever. I think actually more people should use it.
Do editing on the Apple?
Yeah, you could too. So it can go both ways, right? So like, even a way you could edit photos, if you just shoot JPEG, this is why I like shooting JPEG, right? It also speeds up your workflow. So nowadays, I only shoot RAW if I cannot make the JPEGs look good. But whenever possible, my suggestion, always shoot JPEG because like it's faster in all regards. Usually the colors look good, and also they're usually easier to post process. So, for example, a picture like this, I'll click edit, and there's the little tweak here, right? And often I just go to the light function, and just drag this up and down. And it actually does a pretty good job in terms of.
Let's just iPad.
Yeah, you can use it on the iPhone too. Even this connector, you can connect it to your iPhone too.
No, I just use the light.
Yeah, so you can use this to use edit some of the photos, or if you just click this here, you could, honestly the best way to process your photos, it's not a science. You just go through every single option and drag it up and down until it looks about 80-90% good to you, and then just go through them, and then more or less you're done. It's quite simple. Another tip too is also sometimes I use Lightroom CC on the iPad. So I think Lightroom CC is nice because I actually really like the presets. So usually if I open up Lightroom CC on the phone or the iPad, what I just do is I just choose to import photos. And let's say I like this picture, right? I import it, and the reason I really like Lightroom CC is this high contrast and detail preset. I think it works really good, like way better than anything else. And then I usually just apply that, done. And then I'm done. And then the top right corner, save to camera roll, maximum, and I'm done. So anything that I can do to speed up my workflow, that's why I'm a huge fan of presets, shooting JPEG. Ideally, I would only shoot JPEGs, import them to my phone or laptop or computer, and then upload them directly to social media, my website, and my blog. So generally speaking, with workflow, everything simple is generally good. Then it just saves your camera roll, and then now you have it. Also, one of the benefits I found of using an iPad is when you look at your photos on the iPad, it feels different than looking at your laptop. Because it actually feels like you're looking at a print. And actually, this is a funny thing too. Comparing my iPad and my laptop, the screen on the iPad is actually a lot nicer even than my MacBook Pro. So, with my MacBook Pro, honestly, ideally, I wouldn't use a laptop. The reason I prefer iPad, it's lighter, it's actually usually faster, which is surprising. And the only reason nowadays I like to use this is that I'm doing more stuff with video. It still seems video is better on this than on the laptop. But an example of what my workflow on my laptop might be. You guys know this? Fortune favors the brave. John Wick 2, my favorite movie, okay? So what I like to do is, if I'm doing stuff on my laptop, I have one of these like just USB things, right? Bada bing, bada boom. And I just plug this here into the side. And this is actually my biggest life hack. I used to use the old Lightroom Classic CC, but now, so there's two versions, right? There's the old version, the new version. I actually really recommend the new version. The new version, it's so much faster than the older version. older version's still like a little bit better because it has more functions. But I think at this point, Lightroom CC on desktop too, it's very good. So I would ditch the old Lightroom and just use the new Lightroom. It's much faster. So in the top right corner, you press plus, connect your device with HDR. And generally what I do is add to album, I click new album, let's say workshop, let's say workshop 21 or whatever, I click create. And then usually what I'll do on the laptop is I'll just import everything. And then I click add, and then I let all the photos import, and then I go have a cup of coffee and whatever it is, right? And then usually what I do with Lightroom, and this is also the one that benefits of Lightroom CC. So you're on your phone, you see your pictures, it's reverse chronological order. You see the most recent photos you shot, and then you go backwards. Right? If you're using the old Lightroom, the classic Lightroom, you first see your oldest pictures and then you go to the newest pictures. The reason why that's less efficient is this. So sometimes, let's say you're shooting street photography and you see an old man or whatever. Let's say you took 10 pictures of him. Not always, but generally speaking, the photos you shot of the man toward the end tend to be better. So if you see it in reverse chronological order, you're more likely to see the best shot quickly than the other way around. So one of the best ways to make a more efficient photo workflow, always look at your photos in reverse. And the nice thing with Lightroom CC, by default, you see your photos in reverse like you see it on your iPhone. So once again, I think Apple is really smart what they're doing with the iPhone, their photos and stuff like that. So generally speaking, what I do is when I'm looking through my photos on Lightroom on the laptop now, whenever possible, I'll just use presets. Presets will help save your life so much because once you edit it, we spend often too much time tweaking our images. Use presets, it can just speed up your life. And like what you said, Doctor, is how do you know if a photo is good or not? To me, the easiest way to know if a photo is good or not is just follow your gut. Right? Don't think about the intellectual things. If you like the photo, it's a good photo. That's it. And on Lightroom, on the computer, the way to choose a photo. Oh, you remember this restaurant? Aroma? The best way to know if a photo is good or not is does it hit you in your stomach? I think there's more wisdom in your stomach than wisdom in your brain, so that's why they say follow your gut. So the way to choose photos in Lightroom on this one, laptop, it's Z or X. You can see the little flags down here. It's almost like a Game Boy, right? So you just kind of keep going through your photos, and then whenever you like a photo that you like, press pick. And my practical way to save time, if you want to save time, first go through all your pictures, and then pick the ones where you remember the thread. My suggestion is, if you want to make this quicker, first choose all the photos that you like, and then once you choose all the photos you like, then on top here, you see that little filter button, and then you filter it based on the photos that you picked, and then you look at the photos you picked, and then you process your photos afterwards. To me, this is like the biggest game changer. And then also with all the sliders here, you just kind of drag the sliders left and right until it looks good to you, and then just stop. Because there's really not a science behind post-processing. Aesthetic is like your taste. Like some of us, when we're cooking food, we like to add a little more salt. Some of us like to add a little bit of cumin, paprika, whatever it may be. We all have a different taste. And once you think it's about good enough, you choose save it to, and then you choose where to save it. A practical tip is, do you guys have Dropbox? Okay, so I think Dropbox is the best invention. So like, you know external hard drives? I don't even have external hard drives anymore. I just keep everything in Dropbox. So I pay like $10 a month for Dropbox Pro. It gives me like a terabyte of storage. So now in Dropbox, all I do is I export my JPEG images full resolution, and I'll just keep everything synced on Dropbox. Because now we all have a laptop, we all have a desktop, a phone, a tablet, whatever. Dropbox does a very good job of syncing everything. I've tried Google Drive, I've tried iPhotos, iCloud. None of it works as well as Dropbox, especially if you have some which is Apple Photos, iOS, Android, whatever it may be.
Doesn't know that I have Adobe Cloud have stored for you.
Yeah, so Adobe Cloud also stores it for you, but the problem is it doesn't communicate with all your devices as openly. So I think Dropbox for me is just like a more open ecosystem. And it's nice too because you can sync, I mean like it's just easier, right? You can sync JPEGs, files, zip files, and everything. Also a practical tip is whenever I'm doing sets, I just create new folders. Like you can see I have CDMX V1, V2 all the way up to V30. And every single time I export a batch of images, you can see, right? I have all the different CDMXs. So I found that this is the easiest way to keep everything organized. Is that every time I export a bunch of images, V1, V2, V3, V4, V5, and then once I export all the images, what I'll usually do is actually in WordPress on my blog, I have a media library. So I'll take that JPEG images and I'll just drag it to my blog. And then what I'll do is I'll let them sit on my media library in my blog for a few days. And then when I publish my pictures, then I've essentially published my picture this way. So generally speaking with photo workflow, my practical suggestion is this, is that whenever possible, shoot JPEG. Especially if you're shooting with Canon or whatever camera you have. If you go through the menus, you can actually adjust the contrast, saturation, sharpness in the back of your camera pretty well. And it just makes your life easier. The files are smaller, they import faster. This is why I don't get suckered with new cameras that have more megapixels. Like, for example, even when I shoot with new cameras, I actually shoot a JPEG medium quality, small quality. Like I was shooting with a digital medium format. Each raw file was like 60 megabytes. I'm like, that's insane. So I always shoot small JPEG, and each image was like 5 or 6 megabytes. It just made my life so much more faster. And also, this is a big thing I've changed. This is a philosophical thing. The goal of photography isn't to make it perfect. The goal of photography is to keep making new photos and just keep enjoying the process. Because I always thought to myself, okay, the day I can make an Henri Cartier-Bresson jumping man puddle photo, you get 1 trillion likes, I'll be happy and whatever. But what happens is, once you made a really good photo, you made an iconic, famous photograph, you lose the inspiration to make new photographs. And to me, the inspiration to keep making new photographs is actually more important than making a few good photographs. So it's like if you're working on a book project, the goal isn't to make a perfect book. The goal is to just keep making books. Like even the Japanese photographers, I think they're pretty good. Is that like, do you guys know the photographer Araki or Daido Moriyama? Do you know how many books they've made? I think they made like 200, 300 books. And like the American mentality is usually, oh, I just make one masterpiece book and then I could die and I'm happy, right? But I still like the Japanese mentality where it's like, no, the purpose is for you to keep staying productive, to keep producing things, and then after you die, let the future historians decide which ones are good.
That's the problem I think I have thinking about it. The photo book is, it's like, I want to include everything in one book. It's like, that's not the way to look at it.
Yeah, and I mean, also the thing too is that I think that's why the American notion of perfection is so bad, because like the philosophy of aesthetics is very interesting. So do you guys know the notion of wabi-sabi? WABI-SABI. Essentially it means beauty and imperfection. So for example, I think jeans which have holes and tears in them, are actually more fashionable because you have one work or like, do you have that favorite cup at home that you drink the same cup every single day for your coffee, and then you might have dropped it and it has a chip in it, or it's a little bit worn around the edges. The Japanese think that's beautiful, right? But in America, we think that like, oh, clean porcelain perfection is much more beautiful. So to me, I think even with photography books, the goal isn't perfection. The goal is to make something that you enjoy putting it together. Once it's out there, you're happy. But like my best friend Jay-Z says, on to the next one. You make a new book, you're happy, enjoy the process. But the goal should be you're excited to make the next book, rather than this needs to be the one book that summarizes my whole photo life. I think that's kind of a something mistake.
Then you could die after you make that book.
Because like, do you know who I'm actually really sad about? You know J.K. Rowling, who made the Harry Potter? Do you know why she's so sad? So once you make Harry Potter, right?
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Harry Potter 2.
So even J.K. Rowling, after Harry Potter, she tried to make new books, but everybody's like, oh, it sucks. So like,
She's typecast.
you're typecast and you're kind of stuck there. You're like Will Ferrell. You know the actor Will Ferrell? Once you become super famous as Will Ferrell, people go, oh, I'm Anchorman. You can't really grow anymore, right?
You're the Fonzie, you can't do anything else.
Did you say the basketball players? Mostly. So tell the story about that.
Just that, I guess, like the NBA was saying how, like, opinion on all most NBA players is really unhappy.
Why?
It's just, well, they don't really know, right? I mean, they usually say, like product already reached their, like dreams.
That's money and you can't spend it all.
Yeah, because once you have a GT3, what do you have left to aspire on, right? Or once you have the Birkin bag, what else can you get?
What do you do with all your photos? Do you kind of sell your photos?
Okay, so this is my tip. Okay, so I think, so this is contrary. Yeah, that's a good question. So I'm this copyright? I'm copyleft. You heard copyleft? It's the exact opposite of copyright. So to me, I'm all open source. So actually what I do is I share all my full resolution images, and there's two benefits. One, if my hard drive crashes, I could find it on the internet and I have the full resolution image. So like, that's like the best way of like backing up my photos to the internet. Okay? The second thing is this. This is my thought. It's better to put your full resolution images on the internet and share it widely and don't copyright anything, so your photos get shared more and you become more famous. And then what you do is, if you wanted to do fine art prints, then you make a small edition of fine art prints printed by you, and then you sign it, and then you can sell that for a lot of money. So for example, Cindy can talk about this a little bit later, but all my photos, you can download them online for free, full resolution, whatever. But Cindy would do innovative portfolio sets where it's a triptych. So I took 3 of my images from downtown LA. I printed it on very unique paper. I signed it. I made a limited edition of like 10, and then I sold each for like $1,000. So to me, that's more effective than trying to put like watermarks in your pictures on the internet. So like, and also what I discovered too is that like selling your photos, the benefit of selling your photos, your prints or whatever, it's really not to make money, because you're not going to make that much money off of it. It's more of like the feeling that other people like your work so much that they're willing to spend money for it. So it's really not about the money, because it's more of like, money is a symbol of whether someone really, really likes something or not, right? So money is almost this metaphysical thing. It's almost like showing admiration, right? So like, even when I buy someone else's artwork or book, right? It's like money is a metaphor that I really, really like it, right? So I would say even when you're printing, if you want to sell your photos or prints and stuff like that, keep it super small, limited edition. You could do a limited edition of 10 or 5. It's better to print very few of something limited edition and sell out than to make a lot of it and not sell out. So it would be better for you. Let's say you made a abstract series with your Ricoh, your Nikon, whatever, and you're like, okay, I printed this about like yay big in a limited edition of 3. Let's say you sell each of it for like $400. Better you sell that out. And then what you could do for the next version is, if it's really popular, do a new edition, just do a different size. So you could do postcards, or you could do like 20 by 30 or whatever it may be. Yeah.
So a couple thoughts. So you're making money on the packaging. The content's free, but the packaging is where you're making the money.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Japanese, right? Like, if you go to a Japanese store and I want to buy like, I don't know, dumplings or mochi, right? You spend money on the packaging because it looks so beautiful. It's like when you buy an Apple product, you keep the box because the box is so beautiful. And then Steve Jobs, he loved Zen, he loved Japan, and he's so obsessed with packaging. Like even like when you get someone a present, the packaging I think actually matters more than the gift itself. So yeah, you are totally right. People are paying for packaging.
And also putting your content out there, not charging for it. You know, you just keep putting more stuff out. You're kind of motivated to keep producing because you're putting more stuff out there. People see your stuff, they copy it, they download it.
Yeah.
But you just got to keep producing and producing.
Yeah, and it's nice for me too because like, I put out my images for free and people will download it, make it the wallpaper for their laptops and stuff like that. So they always think about Eric Kim. More important than your images is your name. So that's actually the best way. So I think that's why I love you. Don Dillon, DD, T squared, your business cards. The most important thing to brand is your name. Your first and last name. So like even with fashion designers, who are the most famous fashion designers? The brands.
Your name? Gucci, Givenchy, Yves Saint Laurent, etc.
Yeah, look,
They
deep
judge you.
sweat.
We have the one with
Alright, so-
Fendi, we have Prada.
Wait, tell me the first and last name. Do you remember the first and last names?
Yeah, Fendi is the Fendi sister because it was 5 of them. Prada is because it was Miuccia Prada, so it was just her last name. Dolce & Gabbana is both their last names. Gucci is their last name.
Armani.
Armani
I'm looking at
is
him,
the
man.
last
Giorgio Armani.
Versace, Gianni Versace, Ferragamo is their last name. Can't do much because I'm called Cipriani and everybody knows Cipriani from the restaurants.
So I think, so it's really, so like, sometimes in photography, like people try to brand themselves like, I'm Dark Knight Images, or like, nobody remembers that shit, right? Like, people remember like Henry Ford, like even Lamborghini, right? That's the guy's last name, right? So people remember names. And even to me, success in photography, this is the new thing. It's not how many likes you get, it's not how much money you make, it's not how famous you are. To me, success is like, am I still creatively motivated or inspired or productive or whatever? To me, that's a trillion times more important than like I'm famous or whatever. Because like, even for me, like maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, I became like, I reached all my life goals, I got famous, got exhibition goals, made money, blah blah. And then I actually lost the motivation to make new images because I feel like there wasn't any more room for me to grow. And so then I just create this shit like, I'm like, okay, I need to change my life in a way that helps me create new content. So I deleted my Instagram, I stopped using social media, and then now I feel like, kind of flowers like my Instagram or whatever. So I feel like all these new images are kind of inspiring me. So like even here in Mexico City, I've been shooting like 1,000 pictures a day on average. And to me, being creatively productive is the best type of success you can get. And that's the nicest thing about this is that it doesn't even matter what other people think about your work. It's more of like, can I stay creatively inspired and motivated until I die? To me, that's the only way to measure success is creative productivity. So you talk about like the product. So like in America we have consumerism. You consume a lot. I like the idea of producerism. Rather than focusing on consuming, you're focused on producing. So I always thought, with the internet and images, Instagram, we're consuming 90% of the time, and producing 10% of the time. What if you flip that?
So, say you want to shift your emphasis over from Instagram and Facebook, delete those, then it's website and blog.
Website and blog. I still really believe the most important thing is your website and blog. Website and blog, website and blog. Because, do you remember MySpace? Friendster?
So, website design, you do that yourself?
Yeah, so I just use WordPress. Yeah,
Photoshop.
Photo Shelter is good for portfolio.
Photo Shelter?
But I would actually say that a blog is more important than a website portfolio.